Word.
Welcome to the Word in the Street, people. Someday I will get a cease and desist email from Mark Henry, the strongest man alive, telling me to stop using his song. But I guarantee you I'll never get one from my friend, Mr. Bob Sapp. Thank you very much to him for coming on the show a long time ago. We'll get him back on soon. He has apparently retired, I believe, for the fourth or fifth time this week from MMA. He's retired again. Anyway, with us, as always, we have the regulars on. We have, Officer Allen is joining us. It's been a little while. How are you doing, Allen?
Doing great, guys. It's wonderful to be here.
Word, man. Word. Jake from the MMA podcast, producing and representing. Jake, how are you doing, man? What do you hear? What do you say?
I smoke another joint, I'll break it down.
Yo, doing very well. Follow us on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Do it every Wednesday night. As always, it's an honor to be on the Word on the Street podcast.
Hell yeah, and our guest. And also co-host, friend of the show, family, if you will. He is team son and coach Jamie, the living legend Huey, returning from Brazil. We are on episode 3 of The Ultimate Fighter Brazil, season 3. We're going to talk about episode 3 that just went down with the coach here. But first, we'll try to be polite here and ask him how he's doing. Coach, what's up, man?
I'm doing well, guys. It's good to be back with you guys. 2 months off, but 2 months in the show. So it's always good to be back on with you guys, man. Things are good. I can't complain.
Excellent. We'll get right to the questions about TUF Brazil. But anybody that doesn't know, now you know. Team son and coach Jamie Huey. Follow him on Twitter at Coach Team Huey, but also check out CoachJamieHuey.com. Coach, we saw the episode last week when you were on the show. You hinted that it was going to be one worth watching, and yeah, we did watch. Some shit did go down. It apparently, can you confirm obviously the big thing that happened on the episode, besides the search for the next Octagon Girl competition, was Vanderlei going crazy and shoving Chael. Pretty much unprovoked. I mean, let's face it, that was an assault. But Coach, you were there. The episode aired. Did it show everything, or how are they doing so far in the editing? And trying to at least, they're probably trying to make Vanderlei seem less crazy than he came off in reality. Is that the case? What's happened? What can you tell us about the altercation being there?
I think it was. I think as far as the editing goes, they do the most they can with the time that they had. But the amount of time that actually went from him, from Vanderlei deciding that, you know what, I'm done, I'm walking off the show, to the time he actually came back into the gym. Obviously, it's a 1 hour show. How much stuff can you put in there? He was gone a long time. He left. When he left, he literally grabbed his stuff, got in a taxi, and he was gone. And those guys were sitting there. They had the team fights. We're literally nobody's on a team, and we're all standing there, and we're about to do team picks. And that's when Vanderlei, he held his position was he was going to have Chael apologize, or he was going to walk off the show. So, when he didn't get his way, he grabbed his stuff and he left. And it was it. He was gone. And these guys had just fought, hadn't showered, hadn't been to the house, it was about the guys at that point.
Yeah.
So, there was nothing we could do. At one point, we were all, after maybe an hour lapse, we were kind of talking to the producers, like, what are we doing here? Can we send these guys all back to the house? We'll pick teams tomorrow, because these guys are beat up, they're sore, they're tired, they're excited to get in the house. They don't know what team they're on. We really didn't know if Vanderlei was going to come back. True story. And I think I can say this because they didn't put this in the show. We actually, we made some phone calls. We were going to try to get a hold of Vitor Belfort, see if he wanted to come in and take over.
Yeah. Well, damn, you'd have to.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, he was gone. He wasn't coming back. That was his position. So we started kind of doing what we thought we needed to do to keep the show moving, to control and put in some phone calls. I don't know how successful. I don't know who he talked to, but he talked to a couple guys. And then at some point, Vanderlei came back in and decided that he was gonna pick his team and he was gonna stay. So, I mean, that's exactly basically what had happened. But he was gone a long time, so we really didn't know what to expect at that point. I don't quite think they told that story in the episode. But again, they have an hour show and they only have so much stuff they can put in it. So.
Right. So he literally did on that first, I believe it was probably the first day of filming, Vanderlei quit the show. Like, for all intents and purposes, he walked off, he had quit, and they brought him back.
Yeah, and I mean, to some degree, I understand what his theory was in regards to what he was trying to get Chael to do. But the other side of that coin was you've got 16 guys standing there that, this is the biggest opportunity at this point they've had in their MMA career. So, if you don't hold the guys for hostages is my only point. You know what I mean? Pick teams, let these guys take a shower, go home, be excited they're in the house, and then if you want to make a point about something like that, then maybe that's a better opportunity to do it. But not really holding the guys and the cameras and everybody a hostage at the time. I don't have any ill will personally against Vanderlei. Like I said on last week's show, he was always very respectful to me. I shook his hand every time he walked past me. I don't have anything bad to say about him or the coaches on his staff. But there's a better way to go about things, and I think that kind of tainted some of the opinions of some of the guys.
Yeah, it was embarrassing
on that season. Well,
for him,
really, this show isn't about us. Yeah, it's not really about us. The head coaches, obviously, they're the figureheads. They're hyping a fight, but at the same time, it's really about these young and up and coming fighters. And their opportunity.
I was going to ask the fighters when Vanderlei walks off on day one. I mean, they've paid their dues. They're ready to film this show. They've already committed with their bodies. They've gotten beaten up, and this guy walks off day one. Honestly, how did they? I mean, it was their guy. It was their Brazilian guy. How did they handle it for real?
There were guys that were disappointed, and then there were some guys that didn't quite know how to handle this. To some degree, some of the guys I'm sure were just so excited that they had actually, got to be on The Ultimate Fighter and they had won their fight to get in the house. Obviously there's a lot of excitement floating around collectively amongst those guys. But there were some guys that were a little bit bummed out. Having said that, I think Vanderlei's team did a good job bringing their guys back together when they did. Obviously, as the season goes on, you'll see different aspects of things. But he did have just like us, he did have a pretty tight team, and his coaches did a great job of kind of making everybody feel like they were a part of something. So I'll definitely give my hat off to Team Vanderlei for that. But at that time, I just didn't think that it was the right thing to do, and I'm pretty confident that the majority of the guys at the time would have said the same thing.
Yep, but for what it's worth, I guess it did make the episode interesting. So I'll give him that at least. I am, of course, anti.
Got to have a plan B, though.
Fight. Yep. No, definitely.
You got to have a plan B.
He had nothing.
What are you gonna do? I mean, here's the thing: you're not gonna corner Chael Sonnen. It's just not gonna happen. I mean, it's not. This guy is the mentally the sharpest guy in the UFC. There's nobody out there that's gonna put him in a corner and think that they're trap. I mean, you gotta. It's like Chael had a great interview I read, and I think I retweeted it today. Basically said Vanderlei's a checker player. He's thinking one move at a time, where Chael's got 9, 10, 15 moves already lined up. If you go A, he does B. And it's kind of a jujitsu mentality with wrestling. If you go this way, I'm going to take your arm that way. So I don't know. I think at some point Vanderlei kind of underestimated Chael's ability when it came to playing the mental game of the sport.
Yeah, he was just already day one. He was looking for a way out of the fight entirely, and that's my conspiracy theory. Of course, backed up by the fact that he didn't sign the contract until this weekend, Coach. Finally, Vanderlei signed it, apparently. It's going down May 31st in Sao Paulo. Coach, do you think you'll be able to make it down for this fight? Do you believe that it's really happening? And what's your opinion on Vanderlei finally signing the contract to actually fight Sonnen?
I think it's great. I think it's a great fight for the fans. I think it's a great fight for the sport. I think it's a great fight for the Ultimate Fighter season. I'm excited about it. Vanderlei's a competitor, man. I mean, people can say what they want about it, but he went out there and he stood toe-to-toe with Brian Stann in what my personal opinion is possibly the best fight of all last year. It was a slugfest. So Vanderlei's a competitor. He's a guy that will show up and he'll fight when that bell rings. So, and everybody, there's nothing I need to say about Chael. Anybody listening to this podcast already knows he'll fight anybody. I mean, we're down there filming The Ultimate Fighter, and we're at the end of it, and everybody's kind of tired. And Daniel Cormier's opponent Rashad Evans falls out, and Chael's on Twitter telling Dana that I'll fight Rashad on I don't know what is it, 5 or 6 or 10 days notice. So both guys are going to come to fight, and that's exactly what it's going to be. So if I was anybody interested in watching that fight, I would be excited about it.
Do you think? Are you ready to go back to Brazil so soon? Do you think you'll actually be there in person, or are you going to kick back and hold down the porch, so to speak?
That's the plan. As of right now, yeah, absolutely. I love Brazil, man. I absolutely, the food, the people, the weather. Brazil is it for me. As far as going out, yeah, I'm definitely, it's on my list. I do, however, have a couple commitments, so I've kind of got to figure a couple things out. I'm actually working with Adrian Rosenbusch, who is a professional cutman for the UFC, trained under Stitch Duran. So me and Adrian have some things in the works right now. So I'll probably be heading down to Vegas
Awesome.
pretty quick for a little while to do some kind of some cross training with him.
Nice.
I work cuts and wrapped hands, but Adrian is he's at that elite level, so I'm excited to kind of apprentice under him and kind of pick up some new tricks from him.
Yeah.
So granted everything goes good, then I'm planning to go to Brazil, but I kind of plan to wait and see.
Excellent. The fight itself, though. I mean, have you had a chance to keep up with Chael since you guys have been back? What I'm suggesting, basically, what I want to know personally, I'm curious about it. If you are practicing, with Chael Sonnen, for example, for a fight against Vanderlei Silva, I mean, obviously you're trying to simulate Vanderlei Silva. Are you throwing winging left and right punches blindly and like drooling out of your mouth? Like how close do you guys? How close does a fighter at that level? How close do you simulate other people?
Here's the thing. A lot of coaches get caught up in the other guy, and they forget to focus on their fighter. Of course, you plan for certain tactics. There's certain strategies. there's always certain things you can expect from your opponent, and you watch film and you study all that stuff. But I see a lot of the time where coaches will get caught up in only what the other guy's doing, and Chael's been very successful. His whole career, he's been very successful. So it's not a matter of going out there and changing anything about Chael to fight Vanderlei, any different. I mean, honestly, if Chael brings his A game, he's one of the top, 3-5 guys in the company right now. So he brings his A game. He can beat anybody on any given night. It's not always the best fighter that wins, but the guy who fights best always wins. So I think the emphasis will be on Chael more so than it will be training against Vanderlei %.
I hear you, man. It is just going to be a series of left and right hooks, though. That's my fight tip advice. I'm just saying, I've never had a fight in my life, but yeah. So getting back to the actual episode itself, I'm sorry for trailing off, but okay, so you were there when Vanderlei, unquits the show, comes back. He probably talked to his lawyer and manager, is my best guess, but he comes back to the show. And then, of course, I guess at some point, Chael, actually says a word to Vanderlei that he recognizes, which is stupid. He called Vanderlei stupid. And then it was on. It triggered something in Vanderlei, and he shoved Chael. Is that the way it went down? Were you there watching this nonsense happen? And what was the immediate reaction in the room?
Well, it's easy to get frustrated when you're mentally outmatched. Chael's a master of what he does.
I wouldn't know.
There's nobody that does it better than him. He, for Vanderlei, I kind of feel like, he was probably frustrated because he wasn't getting what he wanted. He wasn't getting the reaction that he wanted, and he wasn't intimidated. I have a great picture of Chael coming back from the second Anderson Silva weigh-ins, where Anderson kind of tried to do the intimidation thing and hit him with the shoulder at the weigh-in.
Yeah.
And Chael's coming back, and he's 185 pounds, and he's a big guy, so he's completely dehydrated. Great picture of him just laughing his ass off. So that's the thing with Chael. I mean, it's hard to beat him mentally, and it's impossible. It's hard to beat him physically, and it's impossible to beat him mentally. So, I think it was kind of a Vanderlei either frustrated, or maybe he was trying to he throw his weight around, kind of be an intimidating guy a little bit. But I didn't really see him getting the reaction he wanted. So I think he more or less just kind of there was a moment of frustration that came out.
Yeah. We'll ask you about the chosen fighters on Team Sonnen from Brazil here in a second. But first, I wanted to see, I believe Jake from the MMA podcast might have a couple angles that he was looking at that he was curious about asking you about, Coach. Jake, are you there? You're on with Coach Jamie, the living legend Huey from Team Sonnen.
Yeah, Coach, just a couple questions. It was really cool, the third episode. We finally picked teams, saw who was on, I think Chael called it Team No Apology. So we have middleweights and... sorry?
Oh, no, that was a great line. There's a Twitter account out there now. Team No Apology.
Team No Apology.
That was a great line.
So we have middleweights and heavies. Out of the new crop of Team Sonnen guys, which guys, obviously without giving up many spoilers, did any guys stand out to you during the draft as far as talent?
Absolutely. I had heard some people weren't real excited about the fights to get in the house. And I gotta disagree, man. I mean, maybe the fights to get in the house didn't look like the level of the ability that these guys have. But man, I'm telling you, there are some ringers, both on our team and on their team. I was excited about all of them, to be honest with you. I mean, our middleweights are stacked and our heavyweights are stacked, and like I said, they got some ringers on their team too. So I felt real good about how the picks went. There was a couple guys on their team that I would have at the time would have loved to have on our team, but obviously you can't have them all. We have to have somebody to compete with. As far as particular guys, I'll probably hold off on naming any names right now because I don't want to. Obviously, I know how this process goes, where we end up. So if I was to do that, I might sound like I'm letting something out, even if I wasn't. But Vanderlei's got a great team, and I felt like we had a stacked team too. So for everybody watching, it's going to be fun to see how this plays out.
Definitely, yeah. We spoke about Vanderlei a little while ago. One of the things I really admired about TUF 17, is like even though Chael and John Jones, they obviously had a lot of bad blood. They both knew that they should put the beef aside. The show's not about them. It's about the fighters. That's exactly what they did. They made it about the fighters. Whether we're talking about the coaches paying attention, whether we're talking about camera time, it seemed like TUF 17 was a lot more about the fighters, and Vanderlei is trying to make this all about he versus Chael. Did Chael try and approach Vanderlei before the show, try and make good, sort of like he and John did before TUF 17, or was it a war zone from day one?
I have never seen a single person ever that Chael wasn't able to win over, with his personality, with his charisma, with his honesty, with his sincerity, just who the guy he is. At some point, most people see that, recognize it, and then it's over with. I mean, John was very skeptical of Chael initially, and then he spent some time with them, and they were good friends. And then obviously they went in there, they competed like athletes do. And I'm sure to this day they're still good friends. I watch Chael and Daniel Cormier on TV all the time, but Chael would have fought him on 6 days' notice if Dana had given him the fight. Chael's very he's very personal. He wins people over when people recognize. But I'll tell you what, there was one guy that he didn't win over, and that was Vanderlei. There is, without question, absolute, complete animosity from Vanderlei in regards to Chael. He just I don't know what it is, man. I don't know when they fight if it'll be a different animal, or if it's one of those things Vanderlei's always just going to absolutely hate, despise Chael. But he didn't win him over, man. So, yeah, I would say pretty much from day one, there was definitely some tension in regards to Vanderlei's feelings on Chael, and I don't think that ever really changed. But I guess people are going to have to watch the rest of the season to see it.
Yeah, UFC.tv if you want to get the Fight Pass. Final question before I throw it back to Ramses. It's not about Chael, but about one of his friends and former training partners, Dan Henderson, who had a nice weekend, was losing early in the fight to Shogun Hua, but absolutely destroyed Hua's nose with an H-bomb in the third round, ended up winning the fight via TKO. And my question was, have you ever hit mitts with Dan Henderson? And if so, is there any way you can describe the power he puts in that H-bomb?
No. Obviously, us both being former Team Quest guys, I actually have never even had the honor to meet Dan. Obviously, I know all the same people he knows, but Dan's in Temecula, and we were up here at Team Quest in Oregon. So, no, I've never held mitts for Dan. I can imagine, I can imagine the power that he's got in that right hand, though, because I've seen him hit people and just put them to sleep. That was a good fight, man. That was a really good fight. That he was in trouble in that first round, and there's something about those wrestlers. There's something about that grit that those wrestlers just endure over the course of their whole wrestling career, that they just have the ability to come back from things. And I think you saw that with Dan. So it was a great fight. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was definitely I wasn't expecting that to happen. The Hendo versus Shogun rematch. I thought it was all over, especially after 2 rounds of what appeared to be a one-sided ass whooping. People, I'm gonna be honest. But Coach, I'm gonna unveil this newest theory of mine right now, right here, and get your take on it. I believe that given Dan Henderson's spectacular win over Shogun, I think it's inevitable that they're going to try to get Dan Henderson to fight Chael Sonnen, pretty damn soon, sooner than we'd all like. They're of course friends, former teammates. Do you think that Chael would actually fight Dan Henderson, in your opinion? And if they did fight, how do you see that fight going? No bullshit.
Well, you guys are asking the tough questions tonight.
I think they're going to book
would
it.
Chael fight? Would Chael fight Dan? You know, I don't know if I can really answer that. What I will tell you is, I don't think Chael takes this stuff personal, as a lot of guys do. You know, Chael said in the past that he would never stop. If Chael had a title, he would never stop a friend from being able to compete for that title. You know, Chael, I'm sure he's fought a lot of guys that he's close to. He's always very quick to give 3 guys a lot of credit for kind of being a mentor to him when he was coming up. And that was Dan Henderson, Matt Lindland, and Randy Couture. Would Chael fight Dan? I'm sure if asked, Chael will fight anybody. That's just the way it is. I mean, if Dana called Chael and said he's got to fight me, he probably would. I mean, it's just not that mentality of a fight. Like, I want to hurt this guy to Chael. He competes, man. He's just a competitor, and that's what it is. Yeah. So as far as how that fight would go, you know, Dan's a very high level wrestler, but you haven't seen it lately because, you know, it's the old saying, the wrestler that fell in love with the stand-up. Johnny Hendricks is a dominating wrestler. Mike Pierce is a dominating wrestler. But, you know, these guys love to stand up and bang. So as far as that fight goes, I guess it really kind of depends on who fights their fight that night. Does Chael shoot his double because he's got the best one in the sport, or does Dan try to catch him with that right hand? So, you know, that's the thing about fights, who wins. There's always variables. In boxing, I call boxing rock, paper, scissors. There's an algorithm to and a scientific formula to boxing. Who's got the better jab? Who's working the angles, or who's got the timing? In MMA, it's just like rock, paper, scissors with 1,000 combinations. Mm-hmm. In boxing, the better fighter wins, I believe, probably 9 out of 10 times. In MMA, it's not the best fighter who wins as much as it is the guy who fights the best to win. So, you know, the question is really, there's so many variables to answer that. I'd have a hard time saying exactly how that fight would go. But, you know, both guys are rugged, old school, team class wrestlers. So, you know, it'd be a grind.
Yeah, no, that definitely that brings to mind the question. As far as the boxing thing, I mean, Dan Henderson, I mean, he is literally, I'm not even making it up, he is the oldest fighter on the UFC roster. But we did see him win spectacularly. I was just going to ask, Coach, I know there's a saying in boxing, I'm not sure if it's what is it, the puncher's power is the last thing to go, or his punch is the last thing to go? Do you think that's the case with Dan Henderson, because he was getting beaten up for 2 rounds, man? And you know, if you haven't met the man, I think you can be a little bit more open and honest about what your take is. I mean, is it just he's the only thing left he's got is his punch and power, or I mean, this guy, you mentioned yourself, this guy isn't using the wrestling. He walks around looking like he's got bolts in his neck and back. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing about being a professional athlete, is you're always banged up. You're always going to be hurt. I mean, I didn't compete at a professional level for that long, but the few fights that I did, there was always something. I had a broken rib in one, cracked rib in one fight. I had poison oak leading up to another one. I mean, it's just, there's always going to be something, but it's a matter of just kind of mentally putting that to the side and going out there and competing. I'm sure Dan's got injuries. I'm sure Shogun's got injuries too. These guys are a couple old, war horses. People forget how good Shogun is. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that John Jones fought Shogun for the title. Joe went out and submitted Shogun in the first round. So people might think, oh, he shot. But no, he fought Chael Sonnen. Anybody that goes out there is fighting a guy at that ability and got the chance to defeat. So, Shogun is still a legitimate guy. Dan's still a legitimate guy. There's a lot of young guys that they can go out there half their age and they get beat up on the UFC roster right now. Is he going to probably win a title? No, probably not. But, he can still go out there and compete at some point. But, it all kind of depends also, too. You don't want to see any of these guys stick around too long and end up, getting hurt. Not even physically as much as neurologically. So hopefully, Dan does whatever his goal is at this point in his career. He goes out there and he gets it done, and then he walks off of the sport and he can, have a good life with his family and coach or whatever he decides to do.
Definitely. And it was nice seeing the old Team Quest logo on his fight shorts. That was even nostalgic for me, man. Do you ever miss the old Team Quest days, Coach?
Oh, absolutely. I get text messages from some of the guys all the time, like, Coach, they might be spread out at different gyms. Man, I sure miss you guys. Or I saw you guys on Ultimate Fighter, and basically the coaching staff, with the exception of Vinny and Eric, who is new to our team this season. We've been coaching together for years. So, I think when some of the old guys kind of see the coaching staff still next to each other, it kind of brings that back some memory. And it does for us as well, when we get to kind of be together and pick up where we left off. So, yeah, absolutely, man. I definitely miss Team Quest days, no question.
Good times, man. And to kind of start closing it out, tell us about it. You just mentioned the coaches of Team Sonnen, but tell us a little bit about the fighters. I mean, I didn't even, like I said earlier before we went live, I didn't even try to learn their names because I'm not going to do them the disservice of butchering their names. But the fighters on Team Sonnen from Brazil, can you name them all off the top of your head? You mentioned nicknames instead of real names. Can you? I'm just wondering can you name them all at this moment in time?
Absolutely. That's our team. If I was just going to go from like maybe the middleweights to the heavyweights, Warley Alves was we call him War Man. He is a rough kid. He's just he fought the number one guy in Brazil, who he trains with to get in the house. Everybody was like, this guy he's fighting. It's just this is probably the guy that's going to win the show. This is the guy that, if you could beat this guy, this is the guy that's. So anyway, Warley went in there. Warley's been training with this guy for a number of years, and from what I understand, at some point Warley wasn't quite. He'd kind of this guy beat him up a little bit in the gym as Warley was coming up, and something changed. Clayton really kind of clicked with Warley, and really kind of got in his head and said some things to him that first night to get in the house. It said, "Look, man, you're the new guy. You're coming up. Like, you don't worry about the old guy. You focus on the new guy." And Warley really kind of took to what Clayton, some of his advice was, and he went out there and he beat the number one guy in Brazil, a guy that he trained with, a guy that would take advantage of him in the gym, and he went out there, and it was a 3-round war. No question. I personally thought it was the best fight to get in the house. And it was the very last fight. Me and Clayton both cornered Warley for that fight, and it was amazing. So that's Warley Alves, Warman. He didn't really have a nickname until he got there, and Clayton used to be his nickname was Warman. So Warley, Warman, we just kind of tagged him that.
Yeah,
the other middleweight was Man of War. The other guy, another one of our middleweights was Bomba. And if I try to say his name, I'll chop it all up. So his nickname was Bomba. And I actually cornered the guy to get in the house against Bomba. So I got a pretty good look on Bomba when he was in there. And obviously he beat the guy that I was cornering, and he got in there. And Bomba was like, I mean, all these guys on the team are great, but I really liked Bomba a lot. I kind of clicked with him, and he was just, he spoke good English, so we had a lot of conversation. And he was a great guy on the team, and he a tough competitor. Anybody that fights Bomba is going to be in trouble. The Pellegrino, this guy is a character. You kind of saw some of his antics, dancing around. They called him the Pellegrino, which basically means the pilgrim. They kind of talked about that a little bit on last season's episode. This guy's a character. He's the funniest guy in the house. He's always singing and dancing. He was Chael's guy from the beginning. He was like, I like this guy. We got to get this guy on the team. So that was Pellegrino. Lyoto is a karate background. They call him that basically because he fights a lot like Lyoto Machida. I knew a little bit about him. He was the only guy that I knew a little something about before I saw him fight, because we had some friends in common. Some Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys that actually are from his gym are mutual friends of mine. So we had a couple conversations and stuff. And Lyoto was 12-0. He's undefeated. So he was actually our first pick. And he is very crafty. He's going to be fun to watch. And again, he's a handful for anybody in the house. Those were the middleweights. The heavyweights were Job. Job was in there with a tough competitor. He was kind of getting outworked a little bit. He threw a right hand. He caught the guy, and halfway as the guy's falling, Job kicked him in the face.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Right.
Holy shit!
And just caught him. Yeah, and Job is a cop in Rio de Janeiro, and so he kind of brought that team leadership to our team. He was an asset. He was actually an asset, and he's the biggest guy on the team. So obviously that size sometimes can be a big factor. So it'd be fun to watch him move on through the season. Peizao, he's our Bigfoot is Peizao in Portuguese. Peizao beat what's his name? The guy Chael fought in the WEC, Paulo Filho. Peizao fought Paulo Filho back when nobody was beating Paulo Filho.
Yeah.
Peizao actually beat Paulo Filho, and he fought in Strikeforce. Big guy, rough, strong, physical. He was definitely a guy that we wanted on the team.
I gotta ask? Isn't Vinny Magalhães, isn't his nickname Peizao also?
That's a good question. I actually don't know that.
I believe that it is.
It is.
Yeah, so I was just gonna ask if there's any friction between them. Now looking back, did they hate each other? Is it all clicking together or something? Or is it just coincidence?
No, we were a team, man. We were a team. Yeah, and the guys loved Vinny because Vinny obviously is Brazilian. He speaks Portuguese. But anybody that knows Vinny knows he's a character. He's a guy that really cares about the guys on our team. So Vinny's an asset, and these guys look up to Vinny. Vinny's probably got the greatest jiu-jitsu in the UFC. He's stepped out for a minute to go fight in another organization, but obviously
that's right.
So everybody knows Vinny. So yeah, there was nothing weird like that.
Okay, so that was Pizarro. I'm sorry, continue.
And, that was Pizarro. And then Edgar was very impressive to me, obviously, from a boxing guy. You couldn't hit this guy with a handful of rice. This guy moves his head better than any. I mean, Frankie Edgar is my favorite boxer in the UFC, but Edgar could stand right in front of you, and you still can't hit him because his head he's just slipping every punch you throw. So he was definitely a guy that we wanted to grab. And then last was Vitor Miranda. Vitor's a seasoned guy. He's a Team Nogueira guy. His jiu-jitsu's good. His stand-up's good. He's got a ton of fights. He's got a great record. He was an assistant coach, I believe, last season when Nogueira was one of the coaches for last season. So Vitor actually has an interesting landscape, and as far as he's actually seen it from both sides, from the coaching side of it last season to being a fighter and a competitor on this season. So Vitor was definitely another leader of ours, and he had a great skill set. So that pretty much rounds out the heavyweights on the team.
Excellent, man. And yeah, with names like Vitor, Bomba, Lyoto, I'm assuming that these are nicknames, correct?
Yeah, these are all nicknames. Warman, Bomba, Pellegrino, Lyoto. Vitor's actually Lex Luthor. Edgar is Magrao, I think. And then Pazal, and then Job, we call him. Cabo Job. So. Those are the nicknames. Yeah, I'd kill the names if I tried.
Yeah, same here, man. So compared to TUF 17, of course, you had fighters that spoke English. Do you think you really connected and bonded with any of these guys on the same level? Or was the language barrier pretty much, a deal breaker?
I would say we did, but I would definitely say there was a lot more complications. At some point, production wanted us to speak to these guys in English because it's the only language we spoke, but these guys couldn't speak back to us in English. They had to speak to us in Portuguese, and then there was a translator standing there that would translate what he said to us, and then we would respond in English, he would respond in Portuguese, translator would translate it back to English, and, that got to be a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie, man. That was a little frustrating.
Did any of the fighters speak English?
Yeah, for the most part, there was a few guys that didn't. But for the most part, the majority of the guys on the team actually did speak English, with the exception of a few guys. So there was definitely some differences, but yeah, as far as did we click the same way we did with the guys from 17? Yeah, I think so. These guys were our team, and they knew that we'd do anything for them, and these guys were looking out for us as well. So I didn't feel anything different than I did anytime I see the guys from 17 on both teams, really. I mean, on Vanderlei's team and John Jones' team. When I see these guys now, I don't even really think of them as they were on our team or their team. It's just I see Bubba McDaniels, or I see, I see Clint, or any of those guys. I always kind of felt like, well, we were on the show together, so it wasn't really. At this point, it wasn't so much teams as it was the experience that we were all there at the same time.
No, that's good to know. Got two more questions for you, Coach. Sorry.
Yeah, no problems.
The TUF Brazil also has a little side plot going on. It is the Octagon Girl auditions and contests that's also happening on the show. I've noticed so far to date that when this is going down, I don't believe that I've seen you in the background yet. We are at episode 3. Why weren't you? Were they keeping these events from you, or were you not making an effort to find out when and where the filming was happening? Because I would have been all over this, to tell you the truth. The Octagon Girl contest. Did you get to see any of this go down, or was this filmed entirely separate from your thing?
No, I imagine, I mean, we had the invite. Scott's married, Clayton's married, Chael's married, Vinny's married. Me and Eric are Coach Eric Albarracin, who actually tweeted earlier his Twitter account. We were really the only guys that are down there that aren't married. So we could have probably went, but to be honest with you, the women in Brazil are beautiful everywhere you go.
That's true.
It's not like you're missing something if you go to a ring card girl competition or not.
Yep.
And I think, we were working so many hours, so busy down there. And initially there was a lot of, guys got to be careful. You got to be careful, that when we finally did get an opportunity during the day to go out, we were going to take advantage of it. Me, Clayton, Scott, Vinny, and Eric was actually staying somewhere else. And then obviously Chael was at a different house than we were, but we'd go up to Paulista and we'd walk around and they had all sorts of shops and shop. And we'd go out and eat. We just kind of hang out. Yeah, man, just get some flip flops and board shorts on and just have a guy's day out. So we did some shopping and so, looking back on it, green card girl competition, whatever. Not really a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm walking around Brazil and I'm taking in the heat. So yeah, it was great, man. It was really amazing.
No, I hear you. I'm already at the age where, like, instead of going to the wet t-shirt contest on the beach, dude, I would much rather just hang out, take it easy, check out try like new food and eat at a crazy ass restaurant. Like that's where I'm at right now, man. Just a beer and a nice meal. I'm more interested in that than women. I know how it goes. But yeah, but definitely, that is the literal word on the streets of Brazil. The women are beautiful. I can attest to that as well. Last question, Coach. Before we let you go, thank you again for your time as always. The next episode of The Ultimate Fighter, we always got to leave them with a tease, I guess. In the preview to the show on Fight Pass, UFC.tv people, in the preview they showed it at the end of this episode. It was a preview. Chael's saying that he could smell alcohol on Vanderlei's breath. Just got to get you were there also. Did you ever get that close? Can you confirm or deny? Was Vanderlei apparently, maybe he was going out and celebrating with his homies too in Brazil while he was at it? Was he having a good time during the filming? What do you have to say about Chael's code, if anything?
You're gonna have to watch the season because there's sometimes when you say something specific about something, and you might be kind of, I'm just gonna have to let you guys watch to see how that plays out.
Okay, so it might be some editing problems.
Yeah, there's so many things that happen. You never really know what they're going to put in the show, what they're not going to put in the show, what they're going to edit out. I don't know where editing is. I don't know where production is going with it. So from the standpoint of me saying something I shouldn't say, or I rather just let it play out and everybody kind of make their own decisions based on that. But there's things in the media that the highly publicized physical altercation that happened with Chael and Vanderlei.
The Brazilian
Obviously,
brawl.
that push wasn't it, but that it's kind of leading up to it. So,
It appears from the teases that it's happening in the next episode.
And again, I don't know exactly what they put where, and so it's interesting. It's going to be, again, like we're into episode 4 now. We're getting ready to start episode 4. So those people that are out there that don't have UFC Fight Pass, you need to go get it, and you'll catch up to the season at this point. Obviously, once you have Fight Pass, you can watch episode 1 through 3, and you can catch up where you left off. But there's going to be a lot of things on the websites, on the MMA Junkie and the Sure Dogs of the world, Twitter, that people are going to want to be able to kind of have a little deeper understanding of exactly what type of things are transpiring in the season. So, again, encourage everybody, man, go get Fight Pass and don't miss the season.
Definitely will be there. You heard the man. Get Fight Pass, UFC Fight Pass at UFC.tv. $9.99 per month, but not only do you get to watch the new episodes of The Ultimate Fighter, you get every past season of The Ultimate Fighter. Countless thousands of hours of UFC events are coming your way. I mean, you can pretty much watch any big fight that you ever want to watch. And the new events that are streaming live, Fight Pass prelims, exclusive Fight Pass only events like the Gustafsson fight. Check it out, people. And, of course, The Ultimate Fighter Brazil 3, Chael Sonnen versus Vanderlei Silva. Coach Jamie Huey.
In my, sorry to cut you off, but my experience, obviously I went into this Fight Pass thinking, okay, obviously I got to watch the season, even though I was there, I saw the fights, I want to see how the storylines and everything. But, I gave the example last week. I'm sitting at Oil Can Henry's in my truck getting an oil change, and I pull up UFC Fight Pass on my cell phone, and I'm streaming Royce Gracie versus Ken Shamrock while I'm getting my oil change. So my intent was, okay, I'm going to get Fight Pass. I'm going to watch it for 13 weeks. I'm going to watch our season. I'm going to cancel it. But to be completely honest with you, as a subscriber now, for $10 a month, I'm probably going to keep it because there's so much great stuff on there.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Mike Pierce fight Johnny Hendricks the other day. So there's anyway. I mean, it sounds like I'm doing an infomercial now. I guarantee people get it. Watch our season. Watch the other stuff that's on there. If you're an MMA junkie fan like all of us, there's a good chance you're probably going to want to keep it.
Yep, and it's only fair. See, the man that was actually honest. That was honesty that you just heard. All right. I mean, these people, they put him up in Brazil for a little while, but he's still coming down here, being like, I wasn't sure, but now I am. That's what I'm talking about. UFC Fight Pass. No better promo than that one, besides the one that Chael did with his wife, and they said his wife's name was Brittany Smith for some reason. We're going to get to the bottom of that conspiracy shortly, people. There's something going on here that we're not privy to, but we'll find out for you. We go deep here on the Word on the Street. And, Coach, thank you very much for coming back on. Hopefully we'll recap the next episode. I was aiming to make this shorter than it was. But, before we let you go, where can people find you and contact you, ask you ridiculous questions and spoilers that you can't ever give them?
Twitter at Coach Jamie Huey, webpage www.coachjamiehuey, and then .com. And actually, I'll be down in Las Vegas, I believe the first weekend of April. I'll be down there for several weeks, possibly longer. And I've got some other things kind of on the back burner, kind of waiting to get some dates before I guess I release those. But that's about it for me, man. And it's good to be back on the show, Ramses and Jake and Alan. It's good to be back on there with you guys. So
hell yeah, man!
I'm excited to talk about next week's episode.
Hell yeah! We're gonna watch it. Hopefully, it's the one that we've all been waiting for. If not, we'll find a way. And it's not out of the question that we could score some sort of weird, awkward interview with one of the Team Sonnen fighters at some point. You just let me know which one speaks the best English, basically.
Yeah, it's tricky because of the time change, the 6-hour time difference, and then obviously the long distance from Brazil. But there's a way to do something on Skype. Might be able to set something up.
Yeah, we'll have to, like with the Brazilian Chael Sonnen fan club. I had to pre-record it, but it wasn't too bad. It was just done on like a Friday or a Saturday. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out though. Hopefully, these men deserve to be highlighted besides on the show itself, and hopefully we can speak with them. Language is not a barrier when it comes to the word on the street. So, Coach, thank you very much. We will talk to you soon. Thanks again, man, and hope you have a good night, dude.
All right, guys. Take care.
You too, man. Have a good one. He is Coach Jamie, the living legend Huey from Team Sonnen. He was on the team for season 17 of The Ultimate Fighter. Now he's on for the TUF Brazil season 3 of The Ultimate Fighter with Chael Sonnen. All right, people. Jake, Allen, hopefully you're still with me. We just have 2 or 3 more topics in the UFC world to cover before we sign out of here. But you know what, Jake? I think while I have a little after that segment with the coach, I gotta have a little drink here, a little constitutional smoke here. I believe you played something earlier, which I can only describe as the Chael Sonnen rap. It was a hip-hop ditty. It was infectious. I'd never heard it before, believe it or not. It was from back in the day, for, just listening to the lyrics. But I got to say, an hour or 2 later, it's changed my life. Jake, man, hopefully you have it on cue, man. What's going on here? What do you know?
This is called Who You Gonna Send? This is written for Anderson Silva. Anderson, think it through. Couple months left before they lock that cage behind me and you. Last time, they raised your hand, but it was plain to see. I took a lot more out of you than you took out of me. I broke the mirror, and I blew away the smoke. It was me who tapped, but it was you who broke. So Anderson, my friend, think it through. Who you gonna send? Frankenstein Noguera or your lapdog Ed Soros with a couple of rusty pistols and a beat-up Ford Taurus? If they shoot like you fight, all they're gonna do is bore us with your overrated stand-up and your takedown defense that's porous. Karate Boy Machida, will he show up? With some fresh warm PP in a Starbucks cup? Vandalay, Vitor, Babalu himself, I'll give them all beatings and put them back on the shelf. So get in the gym and work on your sprawl. I just talked to Uncle Dana and it's winner take all. I'm gonna leave you with some string and a whole bunch of welts. Gonna need to keep your pants up, Anderson, because I'm taking your belt. I'm not a martial artist, I am a gangster from Westland, Oregon. When I was young, they used to call me the foreman, not because I was in charge, but because I did the work of 4 men. Anderson, little Miss Anderson. I call you a girl, but you're not, you're a mannequin. Anderson, little Miss Anderson. I am Chael Sonnen, and I am the People's Champion. Look, you're a wuss. There's no way to put it lightly. You ducked me for years, and now Dana's making you fight me. When I beat you in Brazil, I'm gonna leave a whole lot richer, but I'm not going anywhere until that old lady makes me a steak for dinner. Anderson, Princess Silva. Fight you with my eyes closed, and I'd still kill you. Anderson, Princess Silva. Does this bicep look familiar?
My God, people, there it is. Chael Sonnen himself. He's MMA fighter, an actor, an author, best-selling author, rap star, coach. What are they called? The people that are rich and give to charities.
Philanthropist.
Yeah, there you go. He's that shit too, man. And I believe he has some sort of degree or something. So I think he's a sociologist as well. Anyway, last Chael Sonnen related topic before we move on to the Chris Weidman's injury, that whole conspiracy, and then we'll actually close out, talking a little bit about Will Chope, whatever his name is, got cut from the UFC for something that happened 5 years ago. We'll touch on that briefly before we sign off. But Vanderlei Silva signed the contract this weekend, finally, to fight Chael Sonnen. It's going down May 31st in Sao Paulo, Brazil, as we talked to the coach about earlier. It's happening, but of course, it happens after Chael Sonnen was forced to threaten Vanderlei with blackmail. The actual message was, "I swear to you, if he doesn't sign within the next 10 days, I will drop the biggest bombshell in the history of MMA. Hashtag blackmail." That was from Chael Sonnen on Twitter, people. Vanderlei claims the delay in him signing was due to he was waiting for the arthritis flare to subside so he could grip the pen. I'm not gonna hold anything back here. That's not funny to me, even because I have arthritis myself, and I know what it's like, man. Sometimes you struggle even to write. It's hard times. But Vanderlei finally found the courage and summoned the strength to sign the contract to fight Chael Sonnen. But that begs the question: what was the blackmail material? Before I go to the Twitter theories and then my own, let's pass around the horn to Jake and Alan here. I mean, if you had to guess, knowing Chael, I mean, what do you think he had on Vanderlei, if anything? Or was it all just a work? What's your take, man? The blackmail material on Vanderlei Silva. Jake, we'll go with you first.
I don't know. Honestly, the only thing I can really think of is maybe, something about his history of worked fights in Japan. Really, I have no clue what he was talking about.
Alan, what do you think, man? Knowing the boss, knowing Mr. Sonnen himself, do you think he actually had something, or was this a bluff? Or if it was for real, what do you think the deal is with Vanderlei, man?
Well, we all know that Chael Sonnen doesn't bluff. Chael Sonnen doesn't make moves that he can't back up, and I think that he possibly has documentation from certain people that verifies that those fights were works. He probably has written statements. He's probably got them all legally, notarized and everything, and just in a notebook, just waiting to, lay down the smack on Vanderlei if he was too cowardly to sign the contract. I think he had all his ducks in a row.
It's not a bad theory that he actually, maybe he had an opponent of Vanderlei's that was willing to come forward and say it was a goddamn work, and he took a dive.
Or all of them.
Yeah, or all 21. That is, I believe, the record in pride for Vanderlei. Something like 20 plus fights in a row, undefeated. But as Chael pointed out, he can't win more than 2 in a row here in the U.S. But a couple theories on the blackmail from Twitter. What did Chael have on Vanderlei Silva? Here's what came in from Kevin Black at Technics88.
Yeah,
you can find this on my Twitter. Yes, Mr. Kevin Black.
Fucking Scottish Fedor.
Exactly. He was speculating that perhaps Chael Sonnen had found evidence that Wandy was Shrek's love child. MMA enthusiast on Twitter. MMA_enthusiast on Twitter. He was saying he had a couple theories. He said maybe Vanderlei had to get an ass lift. I don't know what that's about.
It's possible.
An ass lift. I've never heard of that before. Oh,
well, he probably needed to get an ass pump. How those people get their asses pumped up because,
I don't know anything about that.
He's nearing the end of his career as a UFC, chump. And after the fight with Chael, he's going to have to start working the streets we all know any good Brazilian, piece of shit like him would do. So
that makes sense. Holy shit. Yeah, I did scroll down and the theory from MMA enthusiasts, Vanderlei had to get an ass lift. And then the next line was because it's been kicked so many times. So yeah, that would go in line with Alan's speculation and theory that Vanderlei is going to have to sell himself on the streets as a bottom. MMA enthusiasts also speculated that Vanderlei is cheating on his wife with a lady boy. Chael figured it out while in Brazil. I think this is kind of getting on what everyone was suspecting for some reason. I mean, yeah, here we go with even another Twitter follower. I mean, Mullen Labe. I don't know. It's Stan Davis 7778 on Twitter. I do. I used to know him by another screen name and Twitter name, but he's moved on apparently. But Mullen Labe, he says also along the same lines that Chael Sonnen probably had audio of a gay orgy in the next training room, including butt slammer Wandy and his gay lover trainer. I believe he's referring to Andre Dida, perhaps. Speculation only, of course. But yeah, a lot of people are going with the gay angle here, man. And I'm not going to lie. I've also heard just a couple of theories. I've heard the word on the street, rumors about Vanderlei, man. And, well, just look at what escapes his lips subconsciously. We have a couple audio drops of Vanderlei just... Something happens. Something triggers in its primitive mind. He just resorts to just the basics. You know, so hopefully we have a couple of Vanderlei audio drops for you. Quotes that he's actually used, including the newest one from The Ultimate Fighter Brazil, which he said to Chael Sonnen. You'll hear it in a second. Vanderlei says to Chael Sonnen, "I'm going to fuck your bed." I, of course, didn't do it any justice, so let's... I don't know, Jake, can we play this shit? What's happening?
I'm gonna fuck your bed.
I'm gonna fuck your bed. I'm gonna play it one more time for you.
At least one more time.
I'm gonna fuck your bed. Gonna fuck your bed. I'm gonna fuck your bed.
This, of course, is... while he's actually in Chael's face right before the Brazilian brawl breaks out, I'm guessing. I got to listen to that one more time because maybe he's saying I'm gonna fuck you bad, but to me,
I'm gonna fuck your bed.
I hear I'm gonna fuck your bed.
There's definitely an R after you. That's like he's definitely saying the word yours. So it really sounds like I'm gonna fuck your bed.
I'm gonna fuck your bed.
I don't know, man. I think I need to hear it like 3 more times in a row. I'm not sure yet. I'm not positive. I think it's I'm going to fuck your bed.
I'm gonna fuck your bed. I'm gonna fuck your bed. I'm gonna fuck your bed.
Thank you, Jake. Forget it for isolating that audio drop off an extended preview for TUF Brazil that I had to search for myself personally after coming to you people on Twitter, hat in my fucking hand, asking you if you could dig up the link for me. But no, I had to search for it myself. Then I got it to Jake, and he had to isolate the damn clip, which he did. And just because of that, I think we should listen to it about 3 more times. To tell you the truth, it is Vanderlei right in Chael's face, saying he's gonna fuck his bed.
I'm gonna fuck your bed. I'm gonna fuck your bed. I'm gonna fuck your bed.
That's conclusive evidence. If this were the Warren Commission investigating the Kennedy assassination and they played that audio tape, everyone would agree that he's saying, I'm going to fuck your bed. He was also famous for telling Chuck Liddell in the octagon itself on a microphone that he wasn't going to fuck his bed. He wanted to fuck him. He wanted to fuck Chuck. Not sure if you have this, Jake, but if you do... Yeah, let's hear it.
Because I want to fuck Chuck here. Fuck Chuck!
Fuck Chuck!
One more time in case anybody doesn't believe it was real.
Because I want to fuck Chuck here. Fuck Chuck!
The crowd roared in outrage, actually. I wasn't there, but I heard, man. When you turn heel in a combat ring, that's one thing. When you flame on, that's another. The crowd is outraged. All right. Speaking of, Alan, I know you're a big wrestling fan. I gotta ask you real quick because I got the WWE network, so I've been kind of. All of a sudden, now I'm kind of back into watching the wrestling game. WrestleMania 30, man. What's your prediction? Who's going to be the champion? Without going into it too much, I just got to know, man. Is it going to be the Yes Movement, the Diego Sanchez guy, or what's happening here?
Oh, hell yeah. It's going to be amazing. And I'm going to be in the 14th row on the floor.
You're going to WrestleMania 30?
I have 4 seats, baby.
Do you think Hogan, of course, is back? Do you think he's going to actually take a couple bumps and wrestle?
No, he's going to throw a punch, though. I think Hogan comes out. I think that Daniel Bryan beats Triple H, and somehow Triple H tries to fuck Daniel Bryan over in the main event, and Hulk Hogan comes out with, whoever else, even the odds, and they allow Daniel Bryan, to have a fair match and win the title. It's going to be fucking epic.
Where is this going down? WrestleMania 30?
At the Superdome.
Oh, no shit. I had no idea it was going to be in Louisiana. Oh, what the fuck?
How do you not know that, Ramsey?
I don't follow wrestling, man. I just have the WWE network. And then at some point late every night, after I've, smoked all the weed I'm going to smoke for the night, and I had my beers, or, a couple lines. So what I do is I put on the WWE network. It has a streaming, just live, one program after another, which the UFC Fight Pass actually needs to adopt, because I'd fall asleep to the UFC Fight Pass given the chance. But the WWE network keeps rotating it on their own little playlist, like it's a live actual network on the internet, a TV network. So yeah, I fall asleep to it every night. But even though I've seen some of the main event replays, I had no idea that the WrestleMania was actually in Louisiana. That's awesome, man. Good for you. You'll be our ground floor reporter, a man on the street there, dude. But yeah, dude, I if Hulk ain't gonna wrestle, he needs to get the fuck out of there, in my opinion. It's good seeing him come back and butcher a promo for the WWE network here and there. But if he's just going to be teasing the fans, I don't know, man. There's other guys they could bring back for that amount of money, in my opinion. Sorry, Jake. I know you have nothing to do with wrestling, do you?
I follow it loosely.
Yeah. Our man Ross the Jew Finkelstein and Yao the Truth were at Raw last night, I believe. Shout out to them. They got to see Scooby-Doo in person. And Arnold Schwarzenegger and Hulk Hogan. Yeah, Scooby-Doo came out and watched a wrestling match. It looked like...
Oh, yes, it was terrible.
Yeah, well, you were like, is Scooby-Doo going to climb in the ring and start, like putting holds on people? But he never did. It was a terrible gimmick of some sort.
Well, they're trying to cross-promote because they have the WWE cartoon that came out that's mixed with, the Scooby-Doo shit.
Well, hopefully that isn't on the playlist tonight.
Did you start playing the piano whenever you were wrapping up that sentence?
Yeah, I had the old, Ross Finkelstein, promo in the background, me tickling the ivories while I'm, cutting one of my terrible promos.
Hell yeah, man. Not bad at all. Okay, guys. So sorry about the WWE wrestling talk. But WrestleMania is going down. Alan's going to be there. He's predicting Daniel Bryan saved by Hogan at some point. Getting back to the blackmail theories, I just wanted to read the rest of mine here. I've heard the following theories. I've, of course, here's the thing, people. I've seen the actual blackmail material that Chael Sonnen had on Vanderlei. I have seen it. I know what it is. All right. I'm having trouble sleeping since then. I'm trying to forget it, put it out of my mind. I, of course, can't talk about it, can't reveal exactly what it was. I'm sorry for that, but, this was in the greatest confidence here. He showed me, it was like that scene, if you guys watched True Detective, it was like when Woody Harrelson views the videotape in the parking garage or whatever the hell it was.
I want to try and look up the audio of that scene.
It was disgusting, people. All right, when just the photographs alone, I was shooken up at when a source close to the, it was chill. When he showed me the photo, I was disgusted, and then when he shook the envelope further and the CD-ROM spilled out with the video on it, and I, of course, put it in my computer and watched the video, I became sick. I almost, like you read about sometimes in Stephen King stories, I almost lost my goddamn mind at that moment. I almost went crazy from the horror. So I can't tell you. I don't want to tell you people what exactly Chael had on Vanderlei. Thank God he signed the contract. Hopefully it never comes to light. A lot of people don't deserve this, you know what I'm saying?
No! God! Jesus! Ah!
That was you responding to the news.
That was me watching the video.
You watch all that? Yeah.
That was Chael at the end there. Anyway, it was terrible, but I will, I can at least, even though I can't tell you the truth, I can tell you the top theories that came in and the rumors that I heard.
Is even more horrifying than we could ever imagine.
Exactly. The truth is more horrifying than most people can imagine. But there was a rumor. Number one was that there was a DNA test that Sonnen was going to reveal. It proves that Vanderlei Silva is not legally a human being. He's actually a DNA test. He's more ape than anything else. Sadly, he may be the missing link, is what I'm trying to tell you people. That theory came in. Of course, no commission, at least in the Western world, would ever sanction a fight between a human and an animal. But yeah, that was one possibility that crossed my desk. It had evidence behind it. I'm not saying it's not true. Another theory was, of course, the gay theory that Vanderlei's in the closet. The evidence, of course, is his training partner, sucker punching Andre Dido, one of the most cowardly bastards I've ever heard about. I mean, somebody put this guy out, you know what I'm saying? He is flaming. Against faggots, but I'm tired of seeing all these queers in the UFC. I don't know who just said that, people. I don't know. Of course, the gay theory, like I said, you know what? One more time for the people that maybe are just joining us, the Vanderlei drops about fucking Chuck and fucking Chael's bed. I think they deserve to be heard once more because this does just go into the corner of the gay theory. And it's a sad thing, people. But Jake, can we hear that one more time, the fuck Chuck and fuck your bed quotes from Vanderlei, just to understand why this theory might have a little gas behind it?
Because I want to fuck Chuck here. Fuck Chuck!
I'm gonna you bad.
Imagine if you had a long day at work and you come home, you flip on your light to your place, clap, and then you see Vanderlei laying on your bed, fucking your bed. All right?
I'm gonna you bad.
Yep. Can you imagine how you would react? I don't know. Another theory is Vanderlei's true age has never been revealed, and that he's at least 67 years old, give or take 10 years. He claims his birth certificate was lost in the same house fire that left him looking like a burned victim. I've even heard that wild speculation that Vanderlei is actually a real-life mummy. I've had the mummy theory come in. But, like, they tried to make him a mummy back in Egyptian days, like Imhotep, but something went, like, retardedly wrong. We don't know how he managed to get from Egypt to Brazil. We don't know, because there wasn't any internet back then. And just some random info. There was this guy on Twitter from Brazil. He told me he was waiting tables at a restaurant. And no joke, he had proof. He said Vanderlei showed up to his restaurant and tried to order a urinal cake with everything on it. That's just what I heard, people. I mean, this is just the word on the street. This isn't fact. This is just speculation and all alleged, of course. Hashtag alleged. It's disgusting. Vanderlei is, of course, acting like an animal, but we'll move on. Watch the next episode of TUF Brazil, because he's kind of keeping the show going, whether he knows it or not. This dumb Neanderthal, this ape-like bully, is somehow making the show worth watching, no matter what language you speak, because he doesn't speak any. All right, guys, I got to ask you before we sign off. Jake and Allen, the Chris Weidman injury here. Yesterday, it's announced that Chris Weidman is going to postpone his fight with Lyoto Machida. It's moving back to July now or some shit, because apparently Chris Weidman fucked up his knees. Now it's both knees. He's going to get surgery on both knees probably. The fight moved up. What do you think, man? Is this real, or is this total bullshit? Do you suspect a little card shuffling going on here? We'll go with Jake first again. Why the hell not, man? Chris Weidman's injury, is there a conspiracy, or is it for real?
I don't see why the UFC would want to conspire to do this. This was the only thing pushing their Memorial Day card. The co-main event was a one-sided Junior Dos Santos for Stipe Miocic match. Now without this title, I mean, Velasquez is hurt, Jones is fighting next month, Weidman's obviously hurt, Hendricks is hurt, Pettis is hurt, Rousey's, I think, doing movies this summer. The only real champs that make sense are Johnson, Aldo, and Barao, none of whom draw. So this kind of fucks over their entire weekend. I don't know how they're going to shuffle things around. I'm hoping Chael Vanderlei gets moved over to 173, but this is not good for the UFC at all.
Well, that was a nice dodge there, Jake, but do you think he's really hurt, man?
Yeah, I definitely think he's hurt.
Alan, what do you think, man? Chris Weidman, is he hurt for real? Are they just card shuffling? I mean, of course, obviously the Expo weekend in Vegas is going to be a huge industry in and of itself. Were they just beefing it up? What's your take, man?
I definitely don't think that Chris is bluffing because of how adamant he was about fighting on this card. He really pushed to fight on this card because he wanted to have the summer off with his family. And, this is the same. Now that he's having to fight in July, again, it's 2 straight summers where he's going to be in camp and he won't be able to, spend time with his family and enjoy it. I mean, you're the champion, so you don't have a choice. But I don't think that he's not injured. I think he is injured.
No.
Like Jake said, personally, I was thinking that they were going to move Chael's fight to Vegas because, I mean, it makes absolutely no sense to have Chael fight in Brazil. I know he did the Ultimate Fighter there, but let's be honest, how many Brazilians come to Vegas? A lot, and the fact that you're going to have a fight in Brazil where Chael and Vanderlei are like the really only two names on the card besides maybe Paulo Thiago, who's terrible now and loses every fight. It's not going to draw. They're not going to have one of these big arenas where you can put 20,000 people in the arena. They're only going to have like one of those small arenas where they have like 15. I mean, maybe 10,000 people. That's about what normal Brazil cards they do, like 6,000 to 10,000 people. So it doesn't make any sense to put a caliber fight on, kind of like the Shogun and Hendo fight. It doesn't make any sense to put that on in Brazil. I mean, I don't understand. They don't get that many viewers on Fox Sports that it could, compare to what they would get out of the pay-per-view buys is if they had it, in the States. And I definitely don't like Chael fighting on just a Fox Sports card where they're also going to have a card in Berlin the same day. So it just kind of like cheapens the entire fight. It's supposed to be like this epic war between these two guys who hate each other's bad blood, like let's build it. So I really, I'd be disappointed if it doesn't get moved to Vegas. That's what I really thought, because really the only other option you have is Mendez and Aldo. Like that's realistically, that's the only other thing they have. I mean, what else can you put there? I mean, even if it's not a title fight, there's only 11 fights on the card now. So they could go the route that they did when they put two other fights on the card, like two other like kind of popular fights where you get, two guys that aren't necessarily title contenders or anything like that, but they're popular fighters, and you throw them on the card. But I just, it's one of their most important cards of the year, and I don't see how they're gonna save it unless they put Chael and Wand on there.
I don't know, man. I think you were maybe onto something. If they can make what you coined as the Mendo fight, I think that might be a card saver there. But yeah, dude, I gotta say, man, this Chris Weidman thing, a couple things aren't adding up for me, people. I mean, let's face it, there's no such thing as a minor knee surgery. All right? I believe Alan himself was once in a serious motorcycle accident. Did you fuck up your knees at all? Just curious, Alan.
No, that's actually the one part of my body that I've...
Were you wearing knee pads or something?
No, I just...
All right. Well, anyway, what I'm trying to say is there's no such thing as a minor knee surgery, in my opinion. What does that mean? Think about it. What kind of surgery on your knee would be minor? To where you can predict and even schedule a fight, just like you're predicting an outcome to it. Right away, that's a warning flag to me. And I gotta say, the only minor knee surgical procedure that I can think of is one that I've had when I was at the doctor's for about 15 years. It's like getting your knees drained or something. Are they just draining fluid from Chris Weidman's knees? Is that the case? Is that going to be the surgical procedure that he has on both knees? Also, it's worth pointing out that his surgical procedure is set for Tuesday, April 1st, which, as we all know, is April Fool's Day. I'm calling bullshit. This surgery is just a prank. Word on the street. Yeah, that's right, people. But, no, you guys apparently think it's real. So I just had to spin that a little bit. You understand. Nothing against faggots, but I'm tired of seeing all these queers in the UFC. Who said that? These computers are really... They can get it to make you say anything these days. It's weird on these computers, man. The technology, Oh, speaking of technology, Dan Henderson, known for the H-bomb. I didn't want to bring this up with the coach because, but Dan Henderson actually worked on the A-bomb. He was there at the Manhattan Project. Look him up. Dr. Dan, they used to call him, before MMA was invented in the 70s. Last topic I want to talk about before we close out here, people. Again, we'll go with Jake first. Will Chope, the UFC fighter. He was trying to make his debut. He got cut because
It was actually his second fight. He fought in Singapore.
there you go.
Lost.
Hang on, we have a caller joining. We have a caller joining in the Word on the Street podcast right now. I have no idea who this is. We're going into him blindly. We don't screen your calls. Caller, you are on the Word on the Street. What do you hear? What do you say?
Ramses, who are you going to send? When I beat you on May 6th, bring this all to an end. I'll take away your show and embarrass you into retirement. I'm the greatest champion there's ever been. Like a pit bull, you be the fire hydrant. We got a date with destiny. I'm not leaving without my belt. You're getting treated like a concentration camp. Inside the fire, you're gonna melt. Kaboom.
I've just been torn apart by none other than the best Jew in the business. But guess what? Business ain't doing so well lately. Ross Finkelstein. Follow him on Twitter, actually. I'll shout him out, even though he's a sworn enemy at this point. He's going to try to destroy everything that I stand for, everything that I've built. He's my pride, my masculinity. He's going to try to end it all and take away what I got on May 6th, I believe, after the Cinco de Mayo, after the premiere of the new 24 season on Fox, which is actually 12 episodes long. Ross Finkelstein, every day I try to summon the belief and the faith to actually pray for you. But it's hard for me to believe in a God knowing what's going to happen to you. I'll keep it at that for now. You guys want to tune into the Word on the Street here to see the actual trivia match of all trivia matches go down. It's probably going to get violent, uncomfortable, but overall epic. You're not going to want to miss it when Ross Finkelstein finally goes up against me in a UFC trivia challenge. It's going to be hosted. The judge and the person holding the question cards is going to be an MMA celebrity, people, to be announced. You heard it here first. Tune in. Sorry, we were about to get to Will Cope real quick. Sorry about that, Jake. Yeah, this guy, he's about to fight. He weighed in already, and then this article comes out about him allegedly assaulting and beating his wife or something like that, and trying to menace her with a knife 5 years ago in 2009 when he was 18 years old, and now he's cut from the UFC because that came out the day before the fight. Jake, what's your take on this? I just have to ask, is it all fair game? You think this guy deserved... he was already kicked out of the Air Force. He did his time. This article pops up, and he can't even make a paycheck with the fight before it comes out. Even though he's made his amends, he's done everything that they've asked him to. The MMA media strikes again, exposes this story, digs it up out of nowhere, claiming it's just a coincidence and they were just doing their job. What's your take, man? Will Cope, dude. Did he get fucked or did he have it coming?
I don't think you can blame the MMA media here. You know, the MMA media didn't make Cope do whatever he did to his wife, assault her, whatever. The MMA media didn't kick him out of the Air Force. The MMA media didn't do a background check on Cope when the UFC signed him, and the MMA media wasn't responsible for kicking him out of the UFC. None of that was the MMA media's fault. All the MMA media did was report on something, and you can't blame them. I mean, did the MMA media, did Jeremy Botter go into Will Cope's apartment 5 years ago and put a chip in his head and make him do all this stupid stuff? No. Did he go and talk to Lorenzo and demand he get cut? No. I don't like putting blame on them because all they're doing is reporting on a story. As far as the cut, though, that's a really interesting question. Where do you draw the line? I mean, you look at a sport which is as mainstream as it gets, the NFL, and who's one of the top stars there? Michael Vick, a guy who literally tortured, murdered, hung dogs. Some of the most heinous crimes imaginable, but he did his time and he was allowed to come back. Obviously, there are certain guys who will get a lifetime ban. I think Ray Caruth is supposed to get out of jail soon, but he's never gonna play in the NFL. You know, I don't like the UFC kicking Cope out. Because I think Brandao would have kicked his ass anyway, and it would have made a lot more sense to cut him at 0-2 instead of pulling him at the last second. And it sets a precedent where, you know, where do you draw the line? Like I said, I mean, what's worse, beating your wife or going out drinking and driving like John Jones did, putting a bunch of innocent lives endangered? Who knows? Abel Trujillo, he's guilty for similar crimes that Cope did. I think Abel assaulted his wife or girlfriend and then prevented her from calling 911. Like, you know, the UFC is not a roster full of people without records. Do I think, you know, the average UFC fighter is a good person and isn't a felon, but you have a few people, and whether it's Abel, whether it's Chope, whether it's John Jones even,
Gustafson.
Yeah, Gustafson. Gustafson, Manawa. We had felon against felon. I mean, do you really start saying, oh, well, you did this and this was a bad thing, so you can't be in the UFC? I think if you've done your time, the UFC has no right to step between you and your livelihood.
Alan, you're a cop, man. Let's say you pull over Will Cope, and you see that. I mean, how would it more than likely show up? This incident in 2009 with his wife. Does that even register anymore? I mean, it's 2009. Does that change your opinion when you're approaching the vehicle or dealing with this individual? What's your take?
If they charge him like with domestic abuse, I mean, he could actually get all that stuff expunged. You know, especially if she didn't press charges, you know, drop the charges. I mean, the first mistake is nobody should be married at 18 years old.
That's right,
Jesus fucking Christ.
He was 18
what
when this
the
happened.
fuck? What Spider Woman, you know, convinced him to fucking, you know, marry her and seduced him at that age?
Yep.
I mean,
Kid,
shit. Man. Who's to fucking say that he actually had the knife? It's alleged, you know. It's her word versus his. And
he said there was some shit that she just made up and that they're friends now, which they are. I saw that confirmed.
Yeah, well, the UFC is fucking wrong for this. That's dirty. There's a lot of guys that probably have worse criminal backgrounds than Chope does. He says that he notified him and did everything he was supposed to do, you know, like on his paperwork when he signed his contract. I mean, they fucked him. I mean, he made that trip, and they fucked him out of his life. I mean, he put in the time in the training camp, did everything, made weight, you know, the sacrifice. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have a lawsuit on his hands somehow. I mean, there probably is like some way that he can file a lawsuit against them, especially like with the precedent of other fighters not being fired for the same thing. Good point. I bet he has a lawsuit. I think we need to hook him up with what's her name?
Jennifer
Bonjean.
Fuck yeah, dude. We need to get her to take a look into this because I think it's a travesty. I mean, yeah, he probably was gonna lose. You know, he's just kind of I don't know.
Speculation at this point.
He belongs in ONE FC probably, but give the guy his chance. Let him fight. Let him make his money. I mean, that's just not fair. It's not right. It's not good business. I mean, you're not going to pay this guy the fucking, $8,000 that he gets to show? You're going to cut him? What kind of cowardly shit is that? The UFC is apparently worth $3.5 billion, and they're going to fucking do that?
They actually did give him the show money. I did confirm.
Oh, they gave him the show money?
Yeah, they gave him the show money at least.
Yeah, well, that's still bullshit.
Yeah, it is because he's fired, and now
that probably only pays for his trip back and all the people he has to pay, and probably his light bill, and that's garbage.
But yep, there you have it, people. This is an actual cop's take. He's a cop, and he's saying it's bullshit, man. It is. I mean, the dude. You know, fact is, No one was hurt. It was a domestic incident, which of course is always up to. I gotta say, whoever is the most calm is probably going to end up looking the best in that situation. But at the same time, that situation is not reflective of the overall relationship. I'm not defending what allegedly happened, but I'm also saying, even though Jake, you're saying the MMA media is just doing their job and whatnot, but at the same time, I don't know if I'm Jeremy Botter from Bleacher Report, who broke the story. I've got to ask myself, gee, how good do I feel now that I've gotten this dude fired for something he did when he was 18, 18 years old, 5 years ago.
I mean, exactly. I mean, it's not even the actual crime that was committed. It's the fact that this kid has moved on. He's doing things with his life. He's trying to improve himself. He's helping others. I mean, the people that he pays to go through his camps. It totally like
circle.
Yeah, it totally like.
But again, Botter wasn't the one who cut him. It wasn't. But I mean, when the story came out,
what did you think his goal was?
Well, listen.
To report a story he came across.
I'm not gonna blame him for what he did, but let's just put it this way: it's called karma, and he's gonna get bit in the ass because that was pointless. Who gives a fuck about Chope? Will Chope? If he doesn't post that article, Chope loses. He gets fired. I wouldn't.
Why
have
not
done
wait
that.
the day?
Hey, what he did is you could compare to what attorney or a public defender that defends like a known murderer that's like 100% guilty, like an admitted rapist or something. Like basically, he knew it was wrong, but because it's his job, he still did it anyway.
Yeah, if it was me, I probably would have sat on it. But I mean, you can't hold these guys. Maybe it's just because I've accepted that these people don't really have a strong sense of morality. I mean, any of us would have sat on it, knowing like, yeah, let's not fuck this kid over. But
what was the agenda?
But Botter isn't gonna sit on it. Hits, dude. It isn't about fucking
That's what I'm
kicking
saying.
Someone out. It's about
like this
getting
man,
hits. And when you
Jeremy
come across
Botter's
a story like, okay, shit, I'm gonna get a bunch of ad revenue. Like my boss holds me to getting clicks. Like all he did is report a story that actually happened that was public knowledge, and maybe he did sit on it until the fight, and if he did, that's a douchey thing. But
there's an unspoken agenda, in my opinion.
You can't hold these scumbag journalists to a sense of morality that we all have. All that matters for them is clicks, and I'll agree there. Yep. Like, yeah, it isn't the moral thing to do, but at the same time, you can't put the responsibility of him getting cut solely on Jeremy Botter's shoulders.
We are what I'm saying though. You're partly right about that, yes. But what I just want to speak out to and highlight the fact that we are seeing a pattern here. These so-called MMA journalists going from promoting and reporting on the sport to what is this? Just digging up garbage and getting fights canceled before they happen. Thanks, you're really promoting the sport now, Jeremy Botter. No, this is bullshit. You could have at least just man to man let the guy at least fight before you drop this bullshit from nowhere.
But it isn't bullshit. It's a story that actually happened, and you don't know when he came across it. I mean, shit.
It doesn't matter when he came across it. When did it drop? I mean, you can't say that he just was like, oh, I got to be objective entirely. There's nothing's going to come out of it. It's bullshit.
I hate.
It's a pattern here that I'm seeing emerge, and I'm trying to report on constantly. These people don't even care about the sport.
I hate to sound jaded, but them taking Brandao Chope off the card, that's not hurting the sport at all. And when it comes down to it, like, this is a multi-million-dollar business. Will Chope and Jeremy Botter, they're not friends. Jeremy Botter has no obligation to Will Chope. Will Chope has zero obligation to Jeremy Botter. And it's fucking ruthless. Like, and when they get their hands on the story, they're gonna pump it and get as many hits as possible, and they're gonna advertise it and link it and put it up front and center. Bleacher Report, MMA, Will Chope beat his wife. But that's the fucking nature of the business, and to expect anything else is foolish.
I'll never accept that it's right to
I don't blame him.
Livelihood.
I don't blame Botter. But I'm just saying there's karma.
Yeah, I gotta say, man, this isn't moving anything forward. It was not. I mean, at least when they're going after Vitor, it's about something related to the sport of fighting. This had nothing to do with it. All right, this was something personal in his life that he took care of, already paid his dues for 5 years ago. Just because it was just because it was reported on, he got fired. The fight got canceled.
Yeah,
he's now jobless.
I challenge some reporter to go out there and actually make a list of like all of the major names in the UFC and their criminal transgressions and backgrounds, and post it for like everybody to see, and then tell the UFC, like, call them out and be like, "You're gonna fire all these guys?"
Oh, trust me, that's coming. I predict that's coming.
Exactly. I put way more blame on the UFC for making a short-sighted move than I do the media.
I'll agree with you on that, Jake. That's a very good point. And you know what? Fuck it, people. This is an outrage. Support Will Cope, or whatever his name is, Chope. He's probably, he hasn't done it again, that's for damn sure. He was cleaning up his life, but now he's jobless, unemployed. Let's reach out to him. We'll try to have him on the show. I
think he's fighting in China pretty soon.
I hope so. I hope he's doing something. He's going to be on a friend of ours' podcast. The name escapes me of the podcast itself, but God damn it, what is it? Hopefully, Jake, is it ringing a bell?
Follow him on Twitter at Mad Samurai. Yeah, it's
Mad
like
Samurai, that's right.
Oh fuck, I'm fucking blanking on it. It's the something MMA show. Jake smoked too much weed MMA show.
Exactly. I believe his name is
the Inappropriate MMA show, I think. I think that's
Mad _ Samurai, I believe. I don't fucking know. But all right, people. We'll leave you with that, man. It's been another exciting, epic, historic episode of the Word in the Street podcast. But it is time to say goodbye. Everybody's got their own demons to worship now. Their own cocaine to finish up. Bad habits to feed. Let's go there right now all together, people, as we sign off on the Word in the Street podcast. Jake, where can people find you? And then we'll go to Alan.
Follow us on Twitter at The MMA Podcast and visit TheMMAPodcast.com.
I always just wanted a little bit of light so I could shine, just to go forward.
That's right. Officer Allen, where can people find you, contact you if need be?
You can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Westland Eagle AH.
Hell yeah, people. Thanks again for tuning in. Follow me at The Ant Jimmy Show on Twitter. And just check out the Word in the Street podcast. Plug that into YouTube. Search that Word in the Street podcast. Fuck it. That's the easiest way to find episodes. We're also on iTunes or something like that. But, thanks again to Coach Jamie the Living Legend Huey, Jake from the MMA Podcast, and Officer Allen, people. And also Ross for calling in. He will face the real destruction on May 6th. See you next week. We're out.
Stay black.
Don't play, take me through it.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you gonna get. Don't you ever talk about me.
Who was talking about you?
Crabtree, don't you open your mouth about the best. Or I'm gonna set it for you real quick. LOB.